The Kethvar armada hung in the void like predators circling wounded prey. 300 vessels, each the size of a small moon, their dark hulls bristling with weapons that could crack continents. They had arrived without fanfare, without warning, materializing from hyperspace in perfect formation around Earth's orbital plane. Admiral Vexthul stood on the bridge of his flagship, the world render watching the small blue planet rotate beneath them. In his 4 centuries of conquest, he had seen this moment countless times. The moment when a civilization realized its insignificance in the face of the Kethvar Empire. Usually the surrender came within hours, sometimes minutes. "Status report," he commanded, his voice carrying the authority of someone who had never known defeat. "All ships in position, Admiral," his tactical officer replied. "The humans' primitive defense satellites have been disabled. Their communication networks remain active as per your orders." Vexthul nodded. "Let them talk. Let them panic." Fear was often more effective than weapons. Below, Earth's major cities pulsed with the frantic energy of a species facing extinction. News feeds across the globe showed the same images. Massive alien vessels blotting out stars, their weapon arrays trained on population centers. World leaders held emergency sessions, families huddled together. Some prayed to their various gods. But in the deepest bunkers of NORAD, in the classified levels beneath the Pentagon, in installations whose existence was known only to a select few, something else was happening. Silence. Dr. Sarah Chen, director of the Prometheus Initiative, stood before a wall of monitors displaying data streams that would have been incomprehensible to most humans. Around her, technicians worked with quiet efficiency, their faces illuminated by the glow of quantum processors running calculations at speeds that pushed the boundaries of known physics. "How long until they expect a response?" she asked without turning from the screens. "Standard Kethvar protocol suggests they'll wait 72 hours for surrender," replied Colonel Marcus Webb, her military liaison. "After that, they begin orbital bombardment." Sarah nodded, her fingers dancing across a holographic interface. "More than enough time." Aboard the world render, Admiral Vexthul reviewed the intelligence reports on humanity. A young species, barely 1,000 years out of their medieval period. They had achieved faster-than-light travel only recently, and had established a handful of colonies on nearby worlds. Their military technology was laughably primitive. Chemical rockets, kinetic weapons, nuclear devices that would barely scratch the armor of a Kethvar patrol craft. "Sir," his communications officer interrupted his thoughts. "We're receiving a transmission from the human leadership." "Put it through." The main screen flickered to life, showing a middle-aged human male in military dress. General Harrison, if Vexthul's files were correct, the highest-ranking officer in their so-called United Earth Defense Force. "This is General Harrison. Speaking on behalf of the people of Earth," the human began, his voice steady despite the circumstances. "We acknowledge your presence in our system." Vexthul permitted himself a thin smile. Even now they couldn't bring themselves to say the word surrender. "I am Admiral Vexthul of the Kethvar Empire," he replied. "Your compliance with our demands is expected within 72 standard hours. Resist and your world will burn." Harrison's expression didn't change. "We understand your position, Admiral. We request time to consider our options." "You have your time, human. Use it wisely." The transmission ended, and Vexthul turned back to his tactical displays. Another conquest, another species added to the Empire's domain. The humans would fall in line like all the others. But as the hours passed, something began to trouble the Admiral. The expected signs of capitulation weren't appearing. There were no mass evacuations, no desperate attempts to flee the system, no frantic diplomatic overtures. Instead, there was an eerie calm settling over the planet below. "Sir?" his sensor operator called out, uncertainty creeping into his voice. "I'm detecting some unusual energy readings from various points on the planet's surface. Specify." "Unknown signatures, Admiral. Deep underground." "The readings are significant," Vexthul frowned. In his experience, primitive species didn't possess anything that could register as significant on Kethvar sensors. "Maintain observation." Down in the Prometheus facility, Dr. Chen watched as the final components came online. Around the globe, sister installations hummed to life. In the Australian outback, beneath the Siberian permafrost, in the depths of the Sahara Desert. each one a masterpiece of human engineering, the culmination of decades of secret research into technologies that officially didn't exist. Quantum entanglement networks are stable, reported her lead physicist. Exotic matter containment is holding at optimal levels. Temporal displacement calculations are complete, added another technician. We have a clean lock on all target vectors. Sarah took a deep breath. The Prometheus initiative had been humanity's insurance policy, developed in secret after their first contact with alien civilizations, had made it clear that Earth was not alone, and not safe, in the universe. While the public saw humanity as a young, inexperienced species, those in the know understood that human ingenuity, when properly motivated, could produce miracles. Initiate Phase 1, she commanded. High above Earth, Admiral Vexthul was studying tactical projections when his reality shifted. It started subtly, minor fluctuations in the ship's chronometer, barely noticeable discrepancies in star positions. But within minutes, the anomalies became impossible to ignore. Admiral! His navigation officer shouted, panic finally breaking through Kithvar discipline. Our position, it's changing. We're being moved through space-time. Vexthul watched in growing alarm as his perfectly positioned fleet began to drift, their formation dissolving as each ship found itself displaced to different coordinates. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was what replaced them. Where the Kethavar armada had been moments before, new vessels now occupied space around Earth. Human vessels, but not like anything in the intelligence reports. These ships were impossibly advanced, their hulls gleaming with technologies that made Kethvar engineering look primitive by comparison. And there were thousands of them. Admiral, his communications officer whispered, his voice barely audible. We're receiving another transmission from Earth. The screen activated, showing the same human general from before, but now Harrison was standing on what appeared to be the bridge of one of those impossible ships, surrounded by technology that hummed with barely contained power. Admiral Vexthul, Harrison said, his tone conversational. Thank you for giving us time to consider our options. We've decided on our response. Vexthul found his voice. This is impossible. Your species lacks the capability. You're thinking linearly, Admiral, Harrison interrupted. The fleet you're seeing? We built it 50 years from now. The technology we're using? We developed it across multiple timelines. The weapons aimed at your ships? We designed them specifically for Kethvar armor, using your own tactical data from tomorrow's battles. The Admiral felt something he hadn't experienced in centuries. Fear. Humanity has a saying, Harrison continued. Don't start a fight you can't finish. The problem is, Admiral, you assumed this fight was starting now. For us, it ended before you arrived. Around the displaced Kethvar fleet, the human vessels began to power their weapons, devices that bent space-time itself, that reached across dimensions, that turned the very laws of physics into instruments of war. Surrender now, Harrison said simply, and we'll send you home with a message for your empire. Earth is under our protection. All versions of Earth across all timelines in all realities where humanity exists. Attack any of them and you'll face what you see before you now. Admiral Vexthul looked at his tactical displays, at his scattered fleet surrounded by an enemy that had somehow weaponized causality itself, and did something he had never done in 4 centuries of conquest. He surrendered. As the Kethvar fleet retreated through hyperspace, carrying news of humanity's impossible defense, Dr. Chen allowed herself a small smile. The other species of the galaxy would learn what the Kethvar had discovered today, that humanity's greatest weapon wasn't their technology or their numbers. It was their refusal to accept that anything was impossible.